Well, if you're watching this video, it's because you're interested in Scamp trailers, and man, I am too. It wasn't long ago, it was April of 2022, that my partner and I, Kathleen, decided that we wanted to get a Scamp, and we got interested in them probably for about the same reason as you might have. You know, resale value, the fact that they're lightweight, they're just the right size for two people. So we called up the Scamp factory, and we ended up talking to a salesman named Wayne Pitlick, and he took our order and $500 deposit, and we started waiting. We were told that it was going to take about 18 months to have this thing built. But then in December, we got a call from Wayne saying that production had been moved up, and that that trailer would be ready by the end of January if we wanted to take it then, and it'd be a 2023 model. And we said, you know, yeah, we'll get it. So a few days ago, I left from Cascade, Idaho, and I've been making the 22-hour drive to Bacchus, Minnesota to pick this thing up, and I'm in my last 28 minutes of this drive, so I'm getting excited that it's going to be here. The purpose of this YouTube channel, if we keep it going, will just be to review the Scamp from the day we got it until we decide we don't want it anymore. And all the products and stuff that we decide that we're going to try out using it. Kathleen and I have a similar mind, as we like things that are compact, that are stackable, that are organized, and I like things when they work. So as we get different products, we'll tell you about them. We'll give you our experience and our review, and if they ain't worth a darn, then we'll let you know. Also, we'll let you know about the ownership of a Scamp, and we'll give you sizes and dimensions and how it affected our fuel economy, and, you know, tips and tricks that we learn along the way that might be of some benefit to you. If this channel becomes any value to you, please like and subscribe to it. I'll try to give it as much content as I can. We don't get to camp all the time. We're not full-time RVers yet, but I do live out in an area where we're going to spend a lot of time in and around the Scamp, and I think we'll be able to, you know, put on a lot of new content. So I'm going to shut this video down, and when we open back up, we should be at the Scamp factory in Bacchus, Minnesota. There it is with the little trailer up in the air. Well, I'm over an hour early, so I guess I'm somewhat excited to pick up this trailer. I think we'll use the time to look around this factory and the shop and get to know everybody. Probably ought to let them know that I plan on videotaping. I don't know why I keep saying videotape. It shows my age of making video of the delivery process and the factory.
Well, they were coming in today, and they're here already, I guess. So I don't know if they get in next week. So he's gonna put those back in stock. I just saw them on the rack, so. Which is good. Right, because as I said, I'm like, why did we round that?
Well, here we are at the factory. You can see that they have a lot of units waiting to be picked up. They organize them by size, I guess. Very nice. So the first place they'll tell you to go is the sales office. All right, so we got the delivery done. I'm gonna go over everything that was shown to me in the delivery in a different video. I've got it hooked up to the vehicle. One of the things that you're supposed to do before you tow a trailer is follow these warnings right here. And you'll see that the first one talks about making sure that your load rating is proper and that your hitch is actually on the ball and that it won't come off and that the ball's locked. And the second one talks about hooking up your tow chains, what they're for and how to cross them. And then this third one is to you pull out the pin on your emergency brakes for the trailer, and then you make sure that you roll forward a little bit to make sure that those wheels are actually locked, and then you put it back in, and you make sure that your lights and everything are connected, and then it's reminding you that for the first 10, 25, and 50 miles of driving, you need to stop and tighten those lug nuts. So I was on this third step where I was pulling out to test the brakes, and they worked fine, but when we went to put the pin back in, it just wouldn't slide in properly. So the folks here at Scamp jumped right on it, and they're just gonna replace that little pin receiver, and he's working on that right now. One of the nice things that sales gave me was this owner's manual. There's also a little QR code that you can scan on the inside of the vehicle, but it starts off with an introduction, and it's really nice. This was put together by the guys who build the trailers. So it's basically like you're talking to the guys who built the thing, and just some good information. And I thought that while this repair is going on, I'll just go over some of it with you so that it would be good information for you to have. A lot of people don't read these owner's manuals. I do, and you can just share off of my knowledge. As the guy who read it, I'll just try to give you the bullet points. So when packing up your trailer to get ready for a trip, there's some things that you ought to keep in mind. Because if you don't pay attention to this stuff, it can lead to a trailer sway or bounce. So you want to make sure that when you pack your items, that you pack them in such a way that they don't slide around while you're going down the road. If you've got stuff that's breakable, you want to make sure that they're packed securely where they can't fall or shift while you're driving. So you want to put all your heavy items on the floor. And you want to make sure that they're either over the axle, which is right there. Your axle runs from the center of this wheel all the way to the other side. So on the inside, the axle would be about right here. So all your heavy items need to be placed, about right here or forward. And that way, you want to basically move them away from the rear of the vehicle. An old rule of thumb is that you want to keep 40% of your weight behind the axle, and you want to keep the other 60% in front of the axle. Now you can't just go and load it all up with anything you want. You've got to remember what your tongue weight is. For example, on my vehicle, I have a tongue weight of 350 pounds. That means with everything up there, the amount of weight pressing down on that tongue can't be more than 350 pounds. So pack accordingly depending on that. Scamp doesn't recommend that you tow the trailer with water in its water storage tank. The added weight can cause, the mounting straps to break, or it can cause your trailer to sway. So if you decide that you're going to fill those things up while you're boondocking, you want to fill them up just before you get to wherever you're going. So make it your last stop so that you don't have to travel very far. The refrigerators in the 2023s and beyond are going to be run off both electric, 120 electric and 12 volt electric. So one of the things that they recommend that you do is pre-chill your refrigerator at least 3 hours before you start putting stuff in it or want to use it. That'll ensure that your food won't get warm before your refrigerator reaches the low temperature it's supposed to be at. Some other things that you want to do before you tow your trailer, if you want to go around, you want to lock all your windows. Your windows have this little switch right here that locks and unlocks them. You can see that there's a little slit back there, and when this is in its down position, it fills in that, it releases it, and then when it's in the up position, it locks it. So let me put it back where it's supposed to be. There we go. So that's locked. When in doubt, just try it. If it doesn't slide, it's locked. These slide right up. Same thing with all your windows. We're going to make sure that if they're able to be opened, that they're locked. So I'm going around and locking all mine. You also want to make sure that any vents on top of the trailer are down. In the bathroom, the vent works by pushing it up, and then you can turn on your fan. You want to pull this down to make sure that it's in the right position when you're ready to tow. And if you went with the option of having the roof vent fan, you want to make sure that that's down as well. If you don't have a bathroom on the 13-foot, then you're going to have a window on the front, and it has a little shield that needs to be put on. It's called a gravel shield. If that's the case with you, you want to make sure that gravel shield is latched in the right position. You want to lock the refrigerator door is one of the things you need to do before you leave. So in order to open it, you got to lift this up so it's locked when it's in its down position. I'm going to take off this packing stuff so that the latch is fully engaged. I don't have anything in here that's going to thaw out. I think I'll clean that off a little bit later, but it's locked. Oh. Now, you want to make sure that you close your cook cover. We got the glass tops option, so that's down, and that you want to make sure that you lower your table into the bed position. You don't want to have your table up when you're traveling because it puts too much stress on the little brackets down there. It bounces around and it'll tear those out and wiggle those mounting screws out eventually, and that's not going to be good. Then you want to go out and you want to lock the door in its deadbolt position. One thing I've always been taught about these doors is when you go to shut it, lift up on the latch. Don't just push it, and here's why. This little latch receiver is what the latch goes into and hooks into to make sure that the door stays locked. If you keep slamming things against it, eventually these screws, which are just tightened to basically use friction to keep it from moving, they'll start to loosen up, and this plate will slide backwards and it can slide forwards, and it'll make it so that your door doesn't shut tight. So rather than constantly pounding on that every time you shut the door, be nice to your trailer and lift up on this thing and shut it, and then give it a little push to make sure it clicks. It just takes a little bit of extra effort, but it's going to save you a lot of heartache in the long run should you move that latch plate. The way the locks work is like this. You have a key that works both the latch lock and the deadbolt. Your deadbolt's in the lower position. This is the latch lock. In order to lock this one, you simply put your key in and you rotate it to the 3 o'clock position, and then you pull it out, and now that's locked. But you always want to lock both of them. This one works a little bit differently. Your deadbolt works like this. You put your key in, you turn it to the 9 o'clock position, and then you rotate it back to the 12 o'clock position, and then you take the key out. You won't be able to take the key out if you leave it in the 9 o'clock position, so don't go sitting there yanking on it thinking it's just stuck. You need to turn it back to the 12 o'clock position and pull it out. All right, what else in here? Your rear stabilizers, you want to make sure that they're completely retracted. You can see that they're in the up position now. So they'll be all the way up. And then you want to make sure that if you have the door step, that it's in the up position. They showed me a really neat little trick. Your door step, which is right there, you can just grab it with your toe, lift up and pull it out, and out it comes. And then putting it back in is the same thing. Lift it up, push it back in, and that is pretty convenient. I think it just stays in that position. Now, if you do what I do, make sure it goes all the way down, otherwise it won't lock. If you push it in just a little bit and it stays up, then just a little vibration can pull it out. But if you put it in and you make sure it goes down all the way,
then it's locked all the way. So make sure that's down and that you can't pull it out with any effort. The last thing you want to do is make sure that these tires are inflated to 50 psi. I checked mine and they're at 47 point something, so I'm going to give them a little bit of air at the next place where I stop to fill up. And then I'm going to remember that after my first 10, 25, and 50 miles of driving, I'm going to tighten those lug nuts back up. Now, one thing that this Scamp doesn't come with is a trailer jack or a lug nut tool. So you want to make sure that whatever you've got in your car fits on those before you get going. So this is the lug nut tool for my Subaru, and I'm just making sure that it fits on here, and it doesn't. So right now, if I were to have a flat tire, I wouldn't have the correct tool to get these lug nuts off my trailer. I'd have to figure out a way to get into town, leave my trailer on the side of the road, and get into town to get my tire off. So I am going to see what is necessary to get this off. I know some people will wonder if the tool that you use to lower and raise the stabilizer jacks that has this hex head fit will also fit on your lug nuts, and they will not. It doesn't fit on there at all. It's a different size. So let's go into the parts department and see if they have a something for lug nuts in there. So it turns out that at this time, the parts department doesn't have a lug nut tool that will fit on the lug nuts of their Scamp trailers. So I'm going to go down the road to a hardware store and see if we can find it. So I've just set my trip odometer, and it also resets the average miles per gallon. I was getting 24.4 on the way here, so let's compare that to what I get when I return home. Looks like it fits nicely into 2 parking spaces. So right down the road, I guess north of the Scamp dealership, is Godfrey's True Value. We're going to try them out, see if this is a good spot to get the lug nut wrench. Thank you. So with some help, I found this way up here. It's exactly what we need. It's going to have 4 different sizes. I'm sure one of them will fit on the Scamp. It might be a good idea to go ahead and get one of these little hydraulic bottle jacks as well. The lift range here is between 7 1/8 to 13 and a half, which is pretty good. This one over here lifts it up a little bit higher. So I'm going to go out there and measure to see what I would need, and see if the one in my car would lift up the Scamp, or if I should go with something like this. All right, let's see if this thing fits. You know, we got a lot of miles to go, so this is the kind of thing you want to check before you get on the road. That one's too small. That one too big. Maybe this one will be just... There's Goldilocks right there, just right. So that will break that thing off just fine. Now I'm going to see if my car jack will fit underneath the axle of this trailer and lift it up without any problem. So I checked, and there's nothing in the owner's manual about how to jack up the trailer. I thought it might be under like doing the axle bearings, but it's not. So we're gonna have to figure this out as we go. This is the scissor jack that comes with my Subaru. You can see it has a slit here, and that's made for it to slip into a channel underneath the car to when you put it in the right jacking position. I'm gonna use this little bit of a recess to go on the underside of this square shaped axle. It's rotated in such a way that if you were to look at it from the wheel end, it would look like a diamond. So the V point is at the bottom, and I'm thinking I can just notch that V kind of in the notch on top of that jack, and that way it won't slide around too much. It's still attached to my vehicle, so I doubt that it will slide very much, and it looks like I'm able to get in contact with it before it extends too far, so I think this will work pretty good. We're going to give it a shot. Better to test it before we need it.
Well, it works out just fine. You can see I've got the wheel off the ground now, and the scissor jack will work just fine. So if you've got a scissor jack in your vehicle, probably don't need to get the added expense or the added weight of that additional jack. While I'm down here, I noticed that I can see the underside of this thing now, and it looks like they spray the bottom of this with some type of a sealant. You can kind of see it built up here. It almost looks like water, but it's like a polyurethane or shellac. I can see the wires that control my brakes here. There's one spot that you might want to put some tape around. See how it kind of goes around that spot right there. I don't know how much vibration that gets, but over time that might cause some wear on the insulation of that cable. I see here that it has a label on the axle, which I'm going to take a good video of right now, because one day I might need that information and it will all be worn off by then. Pretty sure this is my black tank. I can see the clear hose, I guess for the drain there, which is great. So this is a side of the trailer I normally don't see. I bet you that up front, let me see if I can zoom in on that, is my drain pump maybe? I'll learn what all this is, but and I'll get back to you on what it is. But I like the fact that all these hoses down here, look, they're clear, y'all. I don't know how long they'll remain this way before they get discolored or something, but it's nice to be able to see a clog or whether or not water's flowing when you're troubleshooting. I think that's a great idea. So one thing you ought to know before you go in your Scamp trailer is that you need to get you a lug nut wrench and figure out whether or not the jack that will jack up your car will also jack up the trailer, because you don't want to be on the side of the road with your new trailer and have a flat tire and not be able to get the tire off to begin with. So in case you're wondering what it is that you need, you're going to need to bring one that's 3/16 inch or 21 millimeter. That's the end that fits just right on there. All right, one of the other things that is a good idea to check before you leave is not just the tire pressure in your tires there on the ground that ought to be at 50, but you need to check your spare. There's no sense in getting the flat and finding out this thing doesn't have any air in it. So when I get to a place that has air, I'm going to inflate this to probably 55, knowing that over time air will of course come out of it and it'll go back down to 50. And if I need it right away, I can always let some air out, but it's a lot harder to let air in, you know, so we'll overinflate it a little bit. Well, here's a little bit of trivia for you. Before you leave, go ahead and stop by Godfrey's True Value, because not only can you get your tire tool there, but you can also get air. They have compressed air here right on the side of the building. You can pull up and use it. So that's what I'm about to do next. All right, here's the air pump. Turn red shut-off valve before and after use. All right, don't even have to pay. So at the time of this recording, the air chuck here didn't have a gauge on it. Now, I carry my own gauge with me, but if you don't carry one with you, grab one from inside or bring it with you when you come to pick up, because you'll need some way to make sure that you know what the air pressure is. A little bit more. Okay, so we made sure that we've got the tire tool that we need in case we get a flat, or also to stop at the 10, the 25, and the 50 mile marks to make sure that our lug nuts are tight. And we've also inflated the both tires on the ground and the tire on the back, your spare tire, if you got that option, to a total of 50 pounds. I don't know if the spare tire is an option. I think that might be standard. If not, make sure you get one. Okay, on the road with the trailer in tow, no problems. I've taken and got on a straight road and taken my hands off the wheel to see if it pulls left or right. No problem at all, just tracks solid. It's like it's not even back there with this vehicle. So the Subaru Outback with the XT, the turbocharged engine, tows it really well if that's what you want. This is a 2021 Outback XT. So I'm at about 7.5 miles since we left the hardware store, At 25 miles, I'll be pulling over to retighten those lug nuts. And I thought there's probably a couple schools of thought out there about the lug nuts. On the axle, it says to do it, but it says, you know, for new or replaced axles, or if you change the tire to take care of it. Some people will probably say, hey, you know, the factory's already taken care of that, but the way I see it is this. I don't know who put those lug nuts on. They might not have tightened them all the way. He might have gotten a phone call on his cell phone about halfway through and forgotten which ones he had done and which ones he hadn't. It doesn't hurt to pull over and check them and to make sure everything's okay with the trailer. Given the amount of money these things cost, it's a good way to protect your investment because everything rides on those wheels. So that's the way I'm going to recommend you do it. And if you don't think so, leave me a comment and tell me why. Thanks. All right, so you'll remember about this warning that said at 10, 25, and 50 miles of driving, you need to make sure you retighten the lug nut. So we just hit 10 miles. I know I've been saying 25 miles was the first one. I was wrong. It's 10 miles. Luckily, I remember that. So here we are at 10 miles, and we're going to get it done. Real easy job. We're basically just making sure all of these are tight. So that's what you're going to do. Just go around. Most people recommend you do it in a star-shaped pattern when you're putting it on. So that's what I'm going to do when I'm tightening them. I'll just start with this one, then I'll go to this one, and then I'll go from this one to this one, and then I'll do that one last. Now, I know what you're wondering. Were they loose? Well, I won't say that they were loose, but I could tighten them a little bit more. But then again, I'm really strong. It's a good thing to do. I found that some of them could be turned 1/8 of a turn. One of them could turn almost 1/4 of a turn before I felt like it was really tight. So, you know, I didn't kill it as far as just making sure it was as tight as possible, but I put some torque on it, you know, what I thought was appropriate. And even from the factory, they all needed to be tightened a little bit, in my opinion. So we're going to drive another 15 miles to get to 25 miles total. We'll do it again. All right, I just finished a 25 mile, you know, retightening of the bolts. And let me tell you, find a safe place to get over well away from the shoulder of the road, because some Minnesota drivers seem to try to get as close to you as possible when they pass you, or at least it feels that way from the side of the road. So find a safe place to pull over. I'm not going to make another video at the 50 mile mark. I'll just probably mention that I took care of it. One thing I will mention is, yes, I also tightened the bolts on the spare tire carrier. There's 3 bolts on there. One thing you ought to know about those bolts is that the threads of that bolt stick out pretty far, so that only about 1/2 of my lug nut tool can actually, or you know, it can only fit over about half the nut, because it hits that bolt sticking out before it can fully seat over that bolt. So if you have the option to get a little deeper well socket on your I guess on your setup, then you might go for that, because it would make it fit over those bolts a little easier. Worst case scenario though, if it were to start slipping off or something, you could always take an adjustable wrench and get those off. And I didn't tighten those down, those super tight, for 2 reasons. One, on that spare tire carrier, it doesn't have the same you know, shearing forces and on the bolts, so it doesn't require it to be as tight. And also, little Kathleen might be the one to have to get back there and get those off someday, and I can't make them so tight that she can't get them off. So I just got them good and snug, but not super tight. I got to tell you, what you haven't seen on the video so far is how many people have already complimented me on this trailer. I only got less than half a mile, maybe a mile down the road to that hardware store where we bought the tool and aired up the tires, and I had a fella come up and want to look on the inside, and had seen them but had never looked on the inside, and just thought it was really nice. He just kept saying, man, it's really nice. It's really nice. And his buddy came over and looked at it as well, and another fella came up and parked alongside me. He started taking pictures of the darn thing. So, you know, I'm pretty proud of this already. It's nice to have something that gets noticed, and this little trailer sure is doing it. So I think from now on, when someone wants to look at the trailer, I'm going to go ahead and, you know, allow them to do it, of course, but I'm going to ask them to give me a video review of the trailer. So I might get more guys and ladies, only because if they're anything like Kathleen, Jupiter has to align with Mars in a certain way in order for her to be happy with the way she looks on camera. And I'm sure if some lady I don't know comes up and wants to look at the camper, and I tell her that in return I want to take a video of her review on it, she may no longer have an interest in looking at that trailer, because that's too high of a price to pay if she doesn't feel like she looks ready enough to be on camera. So we'll see what happens, but that'll be the plan anyways. I've got to go another 51 miles down West 34 here, and then I'll be getting on another highway, and we are headed southwest back towards home. So every little mile behind us is a mile closer to the house. One of the things I thought I'd mention when I went through the paperwork side of things with Wayne, one of the things he gave me were these little cards, like a little postcard. And he told me that if I get somebody who's interested in this trailer, and I have that person fill out this information on this card and then mail it in, then he will send them a brochure, and he'll get in touch with them and answer their questions about the trailer. And if that same person that filled out this card that I talked to ends up buying a Scamp from Wayne, then he will send me a finder's fee. And I thought that was very generous of him. So I was going to reach out to you folks who are looking, if my video helped inspire you to make the decision to purchase one, maybe you could send me an email, and I'll put my email in the link below, and I will get your information over to Wayne, and I will tell him to send you a brochure. And if you do end up purchasing one, then Wayne will send me a finder's fee. It won't cost you nothing, and it'll help support these videos and help support me and Kathleen trying out new products and stuff like that. And, so please remember, if you're kind of headed in the direction of purchasing one, if I could help you, you know, push you in that direction, and you'd feel comfortable sharing your information with me so I could get it to Wayne the way he asked, then man, it sure would help me and Kathleen out. And like I said, it wouldn't cost you nothing, and you'd be supporting a good cause, I think. So think about that as you move forward. The information it asks for is your name and your address and your email and your phone number, and then to let them know if you're interested in the 13 or 16 foot Scamp or the 19 foot fifth wheel. And I'll put a stamp on this thing, and I'll fill it out with your information, and I'll mail it off for you, and we'll get you that information in the mail. So think about doing that for us. I'd appreciate it. Another thing that Wayne told me about was kind of like a tour service, where they'll offer us a little bit of a fee. They'll pay us a fee if we make our trailer available for someone who is interested in the trailers to do a walkthrough. You know, it's too far to drive all the way to Minnesota for people in my neck of the woods. So having the convenience of being able to look at somebody else's Scamp would help them out, and it help the factory out, and then they'll help me out by giving me a little fee. So if you are in the Boise area, or the Cascade, McCall area, or even if you're in the Idaho Falls area, maybe, let me know, and I will get with Wayne and tell him that you're interested in taking a tour of the Scamp, and we'll let you look at it hands-on, and I'll try to answer any questions you have, and you can kind of try it out, see if it fits for you. The best way, I guess, to get a hold of me would be by email, and again, I'll put my email in the comments section of this video. So I forgot to tell y'all, when I went into the parts department there at Scamp to try to find that lug nut tool, they had a lot of other really cool stuff, and I'm going to include a little video kind of showing what they had at that time. But I did end up purchasing a few things. I got a cover for the trailer. Kathleen and I had talked about the cover, and at the time we decided we weren't going to get that cover because we thought it was too expensive given the cost of what we could get like online. But when I started looking at this one, it looks like it fits just right, and it's got vent holes and tie downs, and it looks pretty solid. So I went ahead and I'm going to take a chance on this one, and when we get to where we're going, I'll throw it up on there in a video, and we'll check it out and make sure that was the right call. If not, Kathleen will tell me I did it wrong, and she'll be right. The other thing I got was a little t-shirt for Kathleen. She likes stretchy shirts that, you know, like girl shirts, like t-shirts, and I got her a red and white one. Got me a t-shirt and a hat. I got some stickers for the girls of the little Scamp, stuff like that. So just a few little knickknacks here and there. Y'all haven't met Kathleen yet, but I ought to introduce her because she's something special. Kathleen and I met about 5 years ago, and I mean, when you see her, you'll know automatically she is beautiful. I told her the other day that we could get thousands of subscribers to this channel just by having her open every shot wearing a bikini or a tight shirt. Now, I only say that because she is visually attractive, but she is also attractive on the inside as well. She's got a sweet, tender little heart. And, you know, over the years I've learned I've got to be careful with that, because there are times when I cannot be the sweetest, most tenderest person. You would think that at the age of 50, I would have my stuff together when it comes to knowing when and when not to open my mouth, but I'm still learning, y'all. And I'm trying to change and to become more like Kathleen, because Kathleen has a loving, generous, open spirit. She's just special, and I admire the way her personality is. I could use more of that in my life, less of the way my personality is. But you'll get to know Kathleen. Something else you ought to know about Kathleen, which might slip up every now and then in these videos, she's got a mouth on her. Sometimes she cusses like a sailor. Tickles me a little bit because I don't know how such dirty words can come out of such a pretty mouth sometimes, but they do, especially if she's angry. So we might have some editing to do in order to keep this video, you know, appropriate for all ages. But y'all will get to know Kathleen. I think that it's important to look at the products and the experiences and this trailer from her perspective, because there are people out there who will have perspectives that are similar to mine, and characters that are similar to mine. And then there are going to be people out there that are going to be more closely related to Kathleen. And that way, if you have both of our opinions, you will get a balanced concept, a balanced perspective, and be able to see it from more than just my, you know, caveman ideas. So I'm looking forward to introducing you to Kathleen, and I know you're going to enjoy seeing her on videos. If you're a guy and you like girls, then you'll definitely like seeing her. But I'll tell you, you know, YouTube is a place where you have people that are kind and give you and behave properly like they would if they were face to face with you. And there are also people who make comments and say things knowing that they have the anonymity of the internet to hide behind. And let me just tell you, your comment's going to get deleted if it's not respectful towards Kathleen. You can say what you want about me, I can take it. But if there's something in there that's going to hurt her heart, it's not going to make it very long on this channel. Might as well not even say it. So be a lady, be a gentleman, when you're making comments about Kathleen. That's from me to you. Other than that, you treat people like the way you want to be treated, everybody's going to get along fine in these comments, and I'd be happy to reply to a lot of them and get you answers. And if I don't know the answer, at least I'll try to point you in the right direction. Well, it looks like it's already time in a video to make an apology. Remember, I'm not a professional YouTuber, so I'm going to be learning as I go. One of the things I learned is that camera mount that I have on my dash, not really a camera mount, it's just a cell phone holder. It's not appropriate for making videos. It jiggles around and rattles, and you can hear it over the audio. And man, I really am sorry, because that kind of stuff annoys me. And it's the kind of stuff that makes me fast forward a video. It's a little thing, but it's the little things that sometimes get me. The reason I have it is because I like to, drive hands-free. I figure that's safer. But I'm going to, one, not make as many videos while I'm driving. That's the safest option. And two, if I do need to make a video while I'm driving, then I'm going to do it while I'm holding this thing in my hand versus having it in that old rattle trap over there. So please accept my apology for that. I wasn't aware of it until I reviewed the video and heard it all, and I'm going to try to keep stuff like that from happening again. Thanks. All right, first night staying inside the Scamp. Run into a few little problems so far that I thought I'd share with you. For one thing, when I came in, none of the lights would come on, and that's because the power shut off right there for your 12 volt was turned on, so all the 12 volt was turned off, and all I have is 12 volt here. I'm staying at a truck stop. Turned that on, and it, everything came on. Everything, that is, except the furnace. I couldn't get it to work. I checked to make sure I had gas. I did. Of course, I had electricity, so I didn't know what was going on, and it turned out batteries. I figured the batteries might be bad because during the delivery, when they went to show me how to use the Max Air, it wouldn't come on, and it ended up needing new batteries. So I originally took the batteries out of this and put them in there, knowing that these were fresh, and it fired right up after that. And I'm going to put these new batteries that I just bought at the truck stop in here in a second. Then the furnace came on, and it kept everything warm. It got to the point where I got too warm, so I turned it off, and when I did, smoke came out. Not a lot, but as if someone had taken a puff of a cigarette and just blown it all in here. I could turn on my light and I could see all the smoke. So I turned on the exhaust of this fan and opened up this window to let it all get ventilated out while I was inside buying these batteries. And when I came in, it had cleared up, but it still smells a little bit like smoke. So be prepared for that to happen. I'm going to check the owner's manual tomorrow to see if that is something that is common when you first fire one of these up. I think it is, because, it gets like dust and stuff like that in there. It might also have some type of, anti-corrosion film or something on some of the parts that gets burned off when you first fire it up. Who knows? But I'll check it out and I'll let you know if that was not supposed to happen. But I've got the bed kind of made down and I'm ready to go to sleep. Just wanted to touch on those things before I forgot about it. Good night.